Hi all, this is Allmighty and welcome to this video. So today I actually prepared a game suggested to me by a subscriber, and it's a game played between Levon Aronian with the white pieces and Viswanathan with the black pieces. It is a game from 2013 from the Tata Steel Chess Tournament, and this is actually a very famous game. It was actually I read somewhere that this game was voted to be the best game of 2013, and when I saw it, yeah, essentially I would agree with that. You're in for a treat. Most of the players don't need no introduction. In 2013, at the time this game was played, Viswanathan was the world champion, and Levon Aronian was already considered to be in his top form. Very strong players. Let's see what do they have in store for us. So what did they have in store for us at that time? D4, D5. So nowadays you usually see in the strong tournaments mostly players playing knight to F6, but then Anand was actually preparing D5 a lot as a response to D4 because this is something that he wanted to play against Boris Gelfand, and he played it against Boris Gelfand in the 2012 World Championship match. C4, C6 going for the Slav defense, and now after a couple of opening moves, knight to F3, knight to F6, knight to C3, we have the Semi-Slav with E6, a very strong pawn center by black. Now you can develop the bishop on G5 for white or play E3, which Aronian played. Now we have knight from B to D7, bishop to D3, pawn captures on C4 and bishop captures on C4. Allow development for the light square bishop and only then capture, so capturing with a tempo. B5 entering Meran variation, bishop goes back to D3 and now bishop to D6. Much more common are bishop to B7 and A6. So me personally, I play bishop to B7 immediately, and I want to prepare as soon as possible C5 to open up the position. Both of the players castles now, and we have queen to C2. So having the bishop and queen on this diagonal, pressuring H7. Now bishop to B7 and A3, not allowing B4, and rook to C8. So why is this move so important? Because at the moment that game was played, rook to C8 wasn't, so to speak, a popular move. You would see much rather something like A6, so stabilizing, or yeah, essentially maybe even C5 immediately. Not C5 immediately, but A5 immediately, so preparing B4. So this is something that was played, and rook to C8 wasn't one of the top variations. But when you usually prepare for a game, and essentially what Anand did, okay, didn't necessarily prepare this variation for Aronian, but he heavily prepared a lot of these variations in the Slav defense for Gelfand in his World Championship match. He also wanted to play not the most common line, but some of the lines that aren't that common. So rook to c8 was played here, and what is the point of the move? To essentially play c5 as soon as possible to open up the position. The queen is on c2 and go about attacking this knight here. So here what white does, here Aronian plays knight to g5. So he immediately goes for this pawn. And what you would usually see is bishop to h2, king to h2, knight to g4, king to g1, and now queen to g5. Black has won a pawn, but after f3, and knight has to go back, you cannot capture here because then queen to e2 just spins the knight and you lose it. And e4, for example, queen to h5, white continues with the bishop pair and a better pawn structure. Definitely, when the queen moves, also here bishop to e3, it is much better. Essentially, white sacrifices a pawn, and it's a very good sacrifice. So Anand doesn't want to go for this. He prepared something else. Here, he essentially ignores the threat of capturing on h7, so he sacrifices the pawn, and he continues with c5. And now, this was actually a novelty at the time. What can you do? I mean, a novelty. It isn't a move that was seen that much, essentially on the top level. Also, I wanted to go over one other move after rook to c8. After that, if, for example, b4 is played, black has to play c5, and essentially this is a forced drawish variation. So I just wanted to quickly go with you. Pawn captures on c5, and now first capturing on f3. Pawn captures, and now you sacrifice temporarily a piece. Knight captures, pawn captures, and now rook captures. The main reason is to keep the pressure on this knight. f4 not allowing bishop to e5, but knight to d5. Bishop to b2 defending, knight captures, bishop captures. Queen to c7, pressuring the bishop once again, rook to c1, and the other rook comes. You can capture on h7, and you could have done this for a couple of moves now, but the response is always the same. King to h8, you can bring the bishop back, and now after all of these exchanges, you are in a situation where there is an endgame with opposite color bishops. Okay, the rooks are here, but there is not much difference, and essentially it is a drawish game. It is a game played, this actually happened in a game played between Topalov and Kasimdzhanov, and both of the players knew that, so they didn't want to go for this variation with b4. So here, instead of b4, knight to g5 was played, as I've said, not going for h2, but the novelty c5. Okay, and now what can you do? So if you capture on b5, then bishop captures on h2, king to h2, so that idea. But now after all this, the problem is that you cannot play f3 because there is this pawn capture on d4. So the queen is attacked. When the queen moves, now knight to e3. And just because of that, in this variation, you cannot go about playing f3. You have to play something else, but already here black is better because whatever he plays, whatever white plays, essentially what will happen is the pawn will capture and you will have a better position with black. So Aronian didn't go for capturing on h7, on b5. He captured on h7, and he captured with the knight. Knight captures on h7, and now knight to g4, going for this pawn. f4 was played, so stopping the attack there, and now not queen to h4, but first capturing on d4, opening up the position and breaking the center. A pawn captures on d4, and now bishop to c5. Now the fireworks are slowly starting. And bishop to c5 is something that also was in Anand's preparation when he was preparing this variation. Essentially a very good move. Can you capture it? Not really. So pawn captures and knight captures. You have a really big problems with this bishop. You cannot develop it. You cannot move it to e4. If you move it to e2, then queen to d4 simply. And what will you do? You're blocking your defense of the queen on the f2 square. If the king moves, simply knight to f2, rook to f2, queen to f2, and now the combination of this queen and this bishop on this diagonal is very deadly. You cannot defend this. If you move the bishop, you will lose the queen. So that was pretty much the whole idea. So Aronian didn't go for capturing the bishop. Instead of that, he played bishop to e2, moving the bishop immediately, so maybe capturing then. But this bishop is attacking on d4. And it would be okay to capture, but Anand once again has a much better idea. Knight from d to e5. So opening up the d file for the queen so that the queen to d4 is possible immediately. And now if you cannot capture, of course, with this pawn, but now also if you capture queen to d4, it comes with the same ideas here. So you cannot do that. Here Aronian played bishop to g4, and here you don't want to capture immediately because now pawn can capture on c5. Queen to d4, king to h1, and now the queen and the rook are defending on f2, and all is well for white. So instead of capturing immediately, you first have to play bishop to d4, now king to h1, and only now knight to g4. And now the position is very much different. Black is definitely better, definitely also winning. But what do you have attacking? This bishop on this diagonal, this bishop on this diagonal. This knight is attacking on f2 and h2. Queen is coming on h4. And yeah, there is not much that you can do about it. So Aronian continues with knight to f8. Now you shouldn't pressure yourself playing queen to h4 because there is this nice queen to h7. You have to exchange queens and your attack will fall apart. So this is something that you don't want to play, and here Anand needs to find the best move to keep the tension going, and he finds it. f5 blocks the queen to coming to h7, also stabilizes the knight on g4, and now it is pretty much a walk in the park, so to speak. Knight to g6 is played to stop queen to h4, but this is only temporarily because queen to f6 is coming. We see h3 attacking the knight, but simply queen to g6. If now pawn captures, this is checkmate. So yeah, it's something this is a pale threat, so to speak. And what can you do? You cannot capture. You can try to defend somehow, but you're already lost. Aronian played queen to e2, and here queen to h5 was played. Now the threat is queen to h3 checkmate, and this is possible because bishop is on this diagonal, so you need to stop it somehow. Here the best move is actually to play rook to f3 to put the rook in the harm's way. So, and this leads to a very forced variation that I want to show you. Knight to f2 check, king goes to h2, you don't want to go on this diagonal where the bishop is, and now bishop to f3. Queen to f3, queen to f3, pawn captures, and knight to d3. As you look at this position, so all of these fireworks, and now you're in a position there where you have the material is essentially equal. But the positional strength of black pieces now, even though there are no queens, there is a rook, a bishop, and a knight on both sides. The positional strength of black pieces is just enormous. White cannot make a move. Of course, he can make a move, but every move he makes is essentially just killing him. The main threat for black is to play a5 and b4. So if white doesn't do anything, to open up the position and start attacking. If for some reason you play bishop to d2, so you're afraid of bishop to c3 and rook to c3 losing a pawn, knight to b2 is coming. And the follow-up doesn't also work. Rook to b1, knight comes on c4, attacking this bishop. You don't have time even to capture on b5, attacking this bishop, because knight to d2 attacks the rook as well. So this doesn't work. If you decide to ignore this, if you play something like knight to e2, rook to c2 is coming on this file coming on the rank where the king is, pinning the pieces. So once again, a bad idea. If you play a rook to b1 immediately, once again, a5 is possible, and then b4. There is essentially not a good move that white can play. But Aronian didn't go for this. He saw that this isn't good for him, and he played queen to d3, this way stopping queen capture on h3. But now simply bishop to e3, blocking the path of the queen, and in this position Aronian resigned the game. Once again, you have to block off, for example, with the knight, bishop can capture, and then you sacrifice the queen, you're in a lost position. So yeah, it is a quite nice miniature, 23 moves with black pieces against Levon Aronian, definitely a result for the ages. And Vishy definitely shows at that moment, so in January of 2013, the last year him being a world champion, is why he was a world champion. And to that day, yeah, definitely agree that he was one of the best players in the world of all time, essentially playing moves such as these. I mean, it was a preparation, of course, for Boris Gelfand, but he said in an interview after the game that f5 was a move that he found over the board and that he was really proud. And essentially, I agree with him. Finding a move such as f5 in this position here, yeah, it's not at all an easy move to find. So yeah, props to him for this game. As I said, a game that was voted to be the best game of 2013 that early on. And yeah, that is pretty much it for this game and also for this video. So I would like to thank you for watching it, and I will see you next time.